Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone is over there. She's doing the things that she loves to do. I hope you are doing the things that you love to do. It's a beautiful Friday morning. We've got some transfer news, views and clues for you. And this one, guys, might be a monster. And when I say monster, I'm not really talking about the kind of breaking news type of monster that you want to say or hear me say. It's more just around the amount of updates we've got. There's about 15 things here to get through. So strap yourselves in, guys. Do me a favor, smash the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop the comments, let them come in thick and fast. And I really do appreciate your like game, guys. It really does help the channel. Really does help the channel. It's been fantastic as usual, but especially of late. So thank you very much for that. Let's get straight into the sort of the news out today. First and foremost, guys, you've got Tyler DIBLING. That name that is back. It's been around the block a few times. Tottenham have been linked with him for the better part of 4 or 5 months. It was always going to be a potential move in the summer, but the asking price was about £100 million initially, which of course is just extraordinarily overinflated. No one's going to pay that for him. He's a very good player, very young, high prospect, English, homegrown, etc. But so you can see where you can get those kind of metrics to kick up. But this kind of stinks of like a Evan Ferguson type vibe for me, where, you know, one good season, breakout season, suddenly there's a cash register in the eyes of Daffy Duck in the old cartoons. Cha-ching! Or, I don't know, Tom the Cat maybe. Either way, I just think it's a wildly overinflated price, and so has the story today suggested that it was that anyway, in as much as now the asking price is closer to 50. I still think it's over the top for a player. Yes, he's talented, but does he really compare in value to a player like RAYAN CHERKI, who we have spoken about, guys, the last couple of days? You know, kind of like suggested to be an Eden Hazard regen. You can almost kind of see why in terms of his skill, his balance, his guard. He's two-footed. He can play kind of anywhere across the three. He's quite stocky, and he's certainly a powerful player, but he has that kind of swift of feet kind of vibe that it's very, very difficult to predict where you're going to go. I actually kind of think that he's almost got that step over guile of like Ivan Perisic, where that cadence, the ability to just keep the rhythmic, almost hypnotic vibe with Ivan Perisic's step overs, that made it very difficult for opposition fullbacks to be able to know which one was the final one when he dropped his shoulder and went inside or outside. Even though Ivan Perisic didn't have the pace, CHERKI does, and that's really where you see the value. And this guy's only valued at £20 million. Remember, Lyon, like all French teams, are going through some financial difficulties because of their collapsing TV deal that happened. I think it was earlier this season, or maybe at the tail end of last season. So French teams are obviously going to be looked at as potential scalping opportunities for teams with money. And you know, Daniel Levy loves a bargain. He can sniff it from 1,000 yards. And RAYAN CHERKI, again today, guys, the noise, it's not a new story, but it is starting to now get into the realms of the credible journalists. It started out in the aggregators, then it got into the likes of Ornstein and the kind of Give Me Sports and the Court Offsides and the more OnlyFans, you know, more exclusive than Bugsy Malone's OnlyFans accounts. Today, I think it's in the Times. I'm not sure, but I think I read somewhere on Twitter that it was quoted in the Times that it's a likely deal that Tottenham are front and centre. I could be wrong about that source, but either way, that sort of thing, guys, reminds you where the game changer is, right? This is the kind of the sliding doors moments, the pivotal moment where this Wednesday coming, like that story around how much it means to both teams, this is where that stuff manifests, because the story suggests that the deal is kind of almost agreed with Tottenham, that the agents are happy, the players is strongly considering, the club are willing to take the £20 million because of his expiring contract and yada, yada, yada. And so all that's really being waited on is the outcome of Wednesday. And again, if Tottenham don't sign him, Manchester United are also looking to sign him. So it's one of those, everything's on the line. And it's not just between Tottenham and United for bragging rights, for brownie points, for cash in the bank, to keep your best players, to attract better players, to maybe go in a different managerial situation for both teams, right? But on top of that, you know, it's moments like this where Manchester United and Tottenham are both looking for the same sort of player, and that player might make his decision to go either way based on one game of football, 90-minute outcome. It's that crazy at the moment, and you love to see it. That's why the stakes are so high, and I can't wait to be there. We have got a game tonight, by the way. Tottenham against Aston Villa, away, Aston Villa versus Tottenham. And just for your records, guys, if you do like watch-alongs and you haven't seen me do one, I haven't done that many this season. I used to do quite a lot, but for me going away to, you know, going to the football every week, it's difficult to get the rhythmic balance into it, the cadence of the uploads, the cadence of the watch-alongs. However, tonight I'm doing one at 6 p.m. I'm starting on my channel. So if you are interested in watch-alongs, then come and check it out for a little while. Give me a chance, guys. Give me a chance. Let's move on with the story. So Tyler Dibling was the first one, right? That Tottenham are back in. Tottenham are quote-unquote at the front of the queue. 50 million quid. I just don't see it happening. I don't think Tottenham have to really concern themselves too much with the kind of English homegrown thing. I think we've done a lot of that rejigging and rebalancing. Excuse me. And so with some of these youth players that may be coming back and being a part of the squad next season, I think that we are okay for the most part. So I don't see Tottenham really paying up, excuse me, for a player that is, you know, overvalued for what he's achieved in reality. Even though Tyler Dibling's a very good player, a very handy player, and I do like him, I just don't think we need another one of these kids that we're paying for almost perfection. Talking about that, let's scoot forward because I've just gone into a nice little segue here. Jobe Bellingham, the story, we've spoken about him many times as well. Jude Bellingham's brother, are you paying for, you know, you're paying for the name? Is it kind of Harrods Tupperware, as is the kind of analogy I like to use? I worry about the price for this guy, but Jobe Bellingham, the move was apparently going to be to Dortmund, and that Tottenham was second in the line of interested parties, but Dortmund needed to have the money from the Champions League in order to afford Jobe Bellingham, and they didn't qualify for the Champions League. And so apparently now that move is off, and so if you scratch that name off the list, everybody else moves up one in the queue. And what does that mean? Well, Tottenham are front and centre. The phrase that we are getting bored of saying, but you also love to hear it from a content perspective. So Jobe Bellingham, £25 million is the alleged asking price. Again, I think this is coming from Ornstein again. So not an incredible, as in like a non-credible source. So you might as well take it seriously. Jobe Bellingham, box-to-box player, Sunderland. We tried to sign him before. You know, he looks like the real deal. He looks like he could be as good. I'm not going to put him in the same sort of bracket as his brother. I'm not sure exactly what role he will be playing. Whenever I've watched him, I think it's kind of like a 50-50 split, whether you think he's better with the ball going forward or sort of getting back defensively. I explained before, he's got that wonderful knack of being able to sort of charge back, chase back with his pace and his power and make those wonderful last-ditch sliding tackles that are ever so important. Does go in a little bit on the ground too much for my liking for a box-to-box player. I'd like to see someone who's got a little bit more of a habit of staying on his feet, but certainly a real talent. £25 million is, I think, nowhere near the price that Sunderland will want for him, but it's a price point that I think is somewhat palatable if you get on board it. I know a lot of you guys have said that you don't really like him that much. You've seen it, you're not really that bought in. Other people on the comments have said that they think he could be the next big thing, and so I'm asking you guys, drop a comment, let me know, where do you land on it? But Jobe Bellingham, apparently Tottenham, £25 million. I would imagine, though, like I say, that Sunderland are going to ask for more because he is English, he is homegrown and all that stuff, and there's just that English fee that goes on top. I wanted to move on with the story now because I've got a few more to get through. And they're all sort of interesting names, right? First of all, Leroy Sané, Bayern Munich. Right winger, left winger, whatever you want to, can play a bit of everywhere. 29 years old, 44 games this season, 13 goals, 6 assists. Not his greatest season by any stretch of the imagination, but still contributing to an almost 1 GA every 2 games. Maybe about, 1 in every 2.2 games or something like that. Ex-Manchester City, knows the Premier League, a wonderful player. He's going to come in with high wages if he was to go anywhere, but he is available on a free transfer. A target for Arsenal. Arsenal have since kind of gone, I don't think so. And maybe Tottenham now are looking to come in and steal the march. Now, this might be a candidate for that player that I said where I think that Tottenham this summer are going to have a new highest wage earner, right? I don't know if it's going to be him. I'd be surprised if it was because, again, we have a hell of a lot of wingers, none of them probably at that competency level that he is, the capability that he's got. But some of the guys that we have certainly got potential, but this guy's got the proven product. Like I say, a bit of a sloppy season or by his standards, and certainly something that I'd be surprised if it happened. However, would I be unimpressed with it? Absolutely not. I just worry about what the absorption of the budget would be from some sort of signing fee, some agent fee. We spoke yesterday about Jonathan David, who's also a free transfer. That looks like it's going in the Napoli direction, which is a shame. But at £25 million in fees, either to the player and to the agent's fees and inflated wages, this is why I always say to you guys, a free transfer is not a free transfer. 70% of the nominal fee would still be going somewhere, just not to the selling club. So Leroy Sané is back on the list. Here's what I would say, guys, right? If you've been watching my channel recently, that I am of the opinion that I do think Matisse Tell has something in him, and I wouldn't be offended if we made it happen at the right price point. There is the right price. I don't know what it is. It certainly isn't the £50 million that we have currently negotiated, but for all intents and purposes, all of the noise, all of the media is suggesting that you know, there's willingness on both sides to come down on that number and to meet at some point in the middle and get to a compromise. I wanted to kind of float an idea out with you that I floated yesterday with Sava on Sava's channel. We did the second episode of The Context. Go and check it out. Every Tuesday on my channel and every Thursday on his. I really enjoy the chat with Sava. It's just all about football, and we can get into the weeds in certain areas, and it's you know, it was really interesting discussion. But we had this conversation yesterday about the need for a six, right? We all know we need a six. I've been saying it for, you know, almost as long as the Bible has, right? We need a monster 666. And I just think that there is an option in Bayern Munich that we should have the conversation about. Now, he doesn't fit the profile of what Tottenham's Daniel Levy would naturally want. Obviously, he doesn't mind, you know, paying overinflated players for younger players, or overinflated prices for younger players, because he thinks there'll be a sell-on value if they do at least improve, or even if they don't make it, they can get some of the money back at halfway through the contract. This isn't one of those situations, but there is a player there who's not wanted by Bayern Munich anymore. I'm not talking about Josh Kimmich. Josh Kimmich has just signed the 5-year extension to his deal, so he's in all likelihood going to see out his days at Bayern Munich. But they did sign a man last year by the name of JOAO PALHINHA, who still owns a home in London. He was obviously Fulham fame. A wonderful, wonderful player who does exactly what I want to see in a six, right? You're not going to ask him to be a box-to-box. You're not going to ask him to do sort of marauding runs forward. You're not going to ask him to do anything other than what he is brilliant at, which is sitting, protecting, gobbling things up, anticipating, interpreting the game, and then distributing the ball in the transition with very high accuracy and just cleaning things up like a proper janitor, right? He sniffs out the danger and makes it tick. And I think that Tottenham instantly become a far, far better team. And Sava suggested that you bring in someone like him and you're probably going to get 15 points more than you got last season just by having that slot filled and that danger snuffed out, and then everyone else can kind of breathe. And he was right. I think the back four would just go, got someone in front that's going to, you know, just take care of business. And if he can't, then we can. And it just makes everything hum like a well-oiled machine. And look, we have a relationship with Bayern Munich. On that note, by the way, there is another friendly being proposed with Bayern Munich. It's just been agreed. On the 7th of August, we're going to the Alliance Arena to play against Bayern Munich. Do you ever feel like, you know, we've spoken about this before, where with Daniel Levy may have like burnt maybe too many bridges with his sort of zero-sum game approach to negotiation, and he hasn't really got that many friends in the Premier League. He can't really pick up the phone to most teams and say, let's do a deal, let's figure something out. It becomes hardballing, and it's just an exhausting exercise that most people want to avoid, and so probably don't take his call, like he doesn't answer Manchester City's for Harry Kane, or didn't answer it for Manchester City for Harry Kane. And I just wonder whether the analogy with Bayern Munich is like the schoolboy bully who only has one friend, and he does everything with that guy because no one else wants to play. You know, and I just feel like Bayern Munich suddenly is becoming this relationship where it's the final bridge that hasn't yet been burned. And look, it is what it is. It's not a bad bridge, but I do sometimes wonder whether we are going to be guilty of overpaying. As I said before, Harrods Tupperware, the brand of Bellingham, the brand of Bayern Munich. Oh, sorry, not Bellingham. Yes, Bellingham. Are we going to sort of be guilty of sort of getting into bed too much and then kind of giving these guys the credit for their quality that they haven't really earned? Maybe Matisse Tell is an example of that. I personally think that he does have something, although, as I've said before, the stats are not necessarily an argument or a utility that I can use in an argument to support my point, because the stats don't look great. However, I do think he's a good player. But if we've got this money that they owe us for Harry Kane, and they would rather chop that off by letting us have Matisse Tell, when the argument that is very well put together by people that don't fancy Matisse Tell, they say we don't need him anyway. He doesn't do very much. I disagree, but he doesn't do very much. But either way, we don't really need him, and we're potentially cop blocking. Oh no, the ball's over there, Bugs. We're potentially cop blocking Mikey Moore, we've got Yang, we've got Odebear. You know, we already have enough of these. Jamie Donley as well, who we've got a story for in a second. And I just feel like maybe the better option here, and it isn't even Leroy Sané either, maybe it's to go back to Bayern Munich and say, turns out you don't want PALHINHA. Would he come to Tottenham? I don't see why not. I don't see why not. He played for Fulham, he went to Bayern Munich, it hasn't worked out, come back to London, you probably have a nice happy life here, you've probably got friends and everything, I'm sure you do, because you spent a long time in Fulham. I think for me, it's an argument that makes a lot of sense, and one that I would love to see Tottenham go after. Let me know your thoughts. Could Tottenham say, forget about Matisse Tell, or maybe double it up, include him in some other format or fashion, but is PALHINHA the right way to go? Bearing in mind that he paid, I think Bayern Munich paid 50 million quid for him last summer. It'd be interesting to see what sort of price you can get. The only problem is, from Daniel Levy's perspective, is there probably isn't any sell-on value. But like I say, if Daniel Levy can twist his thought processes here to not necessarily thinking about the sell-on value of a player directly, but indirectly, what value can that player bring to the football club? And as Saba suggested, 14 or 15 points, and I don't disagree, then that merit point difference in the Premier League could end up paying for the player's signature over a couple of seasons anyway. And so for me, I just think it's an interesting topic, and one I want to get your thoughts on. So let me know about that. Also, would you be going to Bayern Munich in the summer to see Tottenham against Bayern in a pre-season friendly? That cup, of course, is called the Telecom Cup. Chance for trophies, chance for silverware. I mentioned Jamie Donley, guys. So West Brom apparently have come in for a bid for him. A cheeky, like unbelievably rude bid, I think, where they've got £1.5 million on the table to take Jamie Donley on a permanent. What are we doing here? Absolutely no chance. It's laughable. There is, of course, a little bit of maybe a relationship building with West Brom. Ryan Mason is looking likely to be their first choice to replace their outgoing manager. I'd love to see Ryan Mason go and spread his wings, fly the nest, leave the nest for a little while, and see if he can, manifest into the manager that we all would love to see him become as one of our own, and then come back to Tottenham in 10 years with some pedigree and some learnings, and then hopefully take Tottenham to the next level. But Jamie Donley to West Brom, there's a loan option, and there is also a ridiculously underpriced bid, a cheeky bid of £1.5 million. For me, I don't even want Jamie Donley to go on loan. I got this feeling inside my bones. I just feel like he is a ratatata type of player that I just feel like he can handle any level. I've just got a feeling about him that I think that, yes, he's only done it at League One, but the stuff that he does with the ball, it just seems like he's floating on air at times. And I want to see what he can do in the summer on the pre-season tour. And I think that he may be just ready, believe it or not. Wildly as I say that, because Mikey Moore I don't think is ready, but we'll find out with Jamie Donley. Let's carry on, guys. Dusan Vlahovic, £20 million bid. We spoke about this yesterday. That is still on the go. It's still going around. It's also getting into those higher echelons. David Ornstein again saying Tottenham front and centre, £20 million. Again, is this the Paratici relationship? Juve? It all kind of makes sense. Again, though, I just think I won't hate it. I won't hate it in any way, shape or form. I'd be very curious. He's one of those players where I'm not sure. I've got a suspicion that he won't necessarily make it in the Premier League, but there is something about him, something about his size, his frame, his stature, his sort of composure on the ball when he's at it. There's something about him that makes me think I'm curious enough to give this one a crack. I do think he elevates, and I do think that stature of a name, having come from Juve, I think that it makes a lot of sense. Don't forget the Juve relationship. There's lots of players at Tottenham that have kind of known each other from those previous days. I don't know if Kulusevski and Bentancur were at Juve when Vlahovic signed. It must have been close, their departure versus was it the summer and the January before or after? I can't forget, but I'm sure there won't be too much of a problem settling in. It's just whether or not he's worth the salary. And for what it's worth, someone did make a really good point in the comments yesterday when I spoke about this guy, that just because he's getting 300 grand a week in Juve doesn't mean he's going to get it at Tottenham. There's no way he could command it. His form hasn't deserved it. And so that's a good point. If he was to come down to sort of 220, something like that, 60% of what he's currently getting, or 70% of what he's currently getting, but it would put Tottenham through that 200 grand bracket. Look, Tottenham have to do it eventually. We have to do it eventually. We can't forever sit at this 200 grand level limit, because inflation is what it is, right? The prices are going there. 200 grand a week in about 3 years' time won't get you anything more than probably a bang average player. That's just the way it works. And so at some point we have to do it. Is Vlahovic the guy? I'd probably lean towards no. I'd like to see someone else. But given the fact that Jonathan David is now going to Napoli in all likelihood, and that one's therefore dead, and you're looking around the market and going, where else do you go? What else can you get? Maybe Vlahovic does make sense. And like I say, I'm not going to hate it, but let me know that one in the comments. By the way, Mark Gahey, we've got almost like an official confirmation now. The asking price that Crystal Palace are looking for is £55 million. It was 70 million that was rejected in January, allegedly. Newcastle United put in 65 million in the summer. That was rejected. Now Crystal Palace want 55 million. What are we thinking, guys? What are we thinking? Maybe I'm guilty of my own sort of negativity bias on this one. But I feel like I haven't really given him as much credit as a lot of people do, because I formed an opinion on him a few years ago, and I don't want to shake it because I don't like being wrong. But He is a good player, obviously, but £55 million for a guy, 1 year left on his contract, English price, English tax, whatever. We've gone through it a million times. I'm not going to go through it anymore, but let me know. £55 million, would you get it done if Romero leaves? Kyle Walker-Peters, next name up. Free transfer, linked with Tottenham. Tottenham apparently front and centre. That quote we're going to keep saying, but apparently today Leeds United have come in and put in a transfer request for him. He's on a free, obviously, and that Leeds are looking for that kind of that added value. I think it's a better fit for them than it is for us. I don't think Kyle Walker-Peters comes in and does anything. I know the argument is he'll be happy to sit on the bench and play minutes when he has to. That to me is a problem. I'm sorry, like for someone, it was a problem when he didn't want to leave Southampton when they got relegated. Like there's a bit of that kind of, you know, where's your motivations to do what you can do with your career, right? If you're better than a championship level player, and if you're not, then why are we looking at him? Apart from the fact that he's homegrown and club trained, which again, is just lazy work because we do have players coming through. We've got to talk about one of them in a second as well, Tyrese Hall. But for me, Kyle Walker-Peters, I don't really want to see it. And if we do sign him, to me, it just reeks of the wrong sort of ambitions. But there's a story, and you know it will be a constant reminder all the way through the summer. Tyrese Hall, I mentioned, guys, has been called up to the Jamaica squad. I don't think he's played actually for Tottenham this season at all, but he has been involved in first team training. But he's now been called up to the first team squad at Jamaica, which is very, very interesting. So next up on the list, guys, we've got more about Vanderson, the right back from Monaco, who Tottenham have been linked with, as I say, for quite a couple of years. We kept an eye on him, and the story's out today that the Vanderson deal essentially is entirely predicated on the future of either Pedro Porro or, here's the story, here's the update, Jed Spence. There's rumours out that Tottenham and Jed Spence, maybe via the agent, I don't know how true these are, but I'll be honest, the quality of the source isn't sensational, so take it with a pinch of salt. But the Vanderson deal might only manifest if there is truth to the idea that Pedro Porro wanted to leave. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that guy is a very happy boy at Tottenham Hotspur and wants to be a part of something here. But Jed Spence, I'm not so sure about. Maybe over the last sort of few weeks we've seen a deterioration in his form. Maybe that is in some way related to how he feels he's been treated, used by ANGE POSTECOGLOU to some extent, just until Destiny Udogie returned. I think he actually said as much, that Jed has done a really good job filling in until Destiny returned. So ever since Destiny did come back, then Jed was put back onto the sidelines and only used sparingly and in the kind of games that quote unquote don't matter. They all matter to me. But yeah, the story is that Vanderson might be coming in a world where Jed Spence was to leave. Now, there isn't any education in the story about how much Jed Spence is worth and where he might want to go, but he is English, he is homegrown. We spoke about this on Savage Show yesterday as well, that maybe you could get 30, 35 million quid for him because he is a real talent. I personally don't want to see him go. I want to see him be nurtured, respected, appreciated, and recognised for the talent that he is and for the value that he provides. So it is a hard, difficult juggling act to be able to keep everybody happy when you have 25, 26 men in the squad and you need to keep all those kind of plates spinning. Then if you don't manage those minutes correctly, or if you say things or act in a way where it looks like you have, I won't say favourites, but certainly preferred players of a squad of 26, that where there's maybe 14 or 15 and the other 10 maybe feel like they're secondary at best, then you can have outcomes. At the end of the day, you are a manager, or Ange is a manager, and managing is the name of the game. So I think with certain players, he's done a brilliant job in that regard. With others, not so much. And I think Jed falls into the category of the latter. Where else have we got to go? I've done VLAHOVIC, done Gay, done Kyle Walker-Peters. Tyrese Hall, I've done that one, right? He's going to Jamaica, or he's going on the Jamaica national team. Congratulations to him. Done Vanderson. Have I told you about Heung Min's son and the fake pregnancy scam that was being pulled by a Korean couple out in Korea looking for £100,000? Apparently, those two have been arrested and are being looked into for fraud and deception, and we shall see where that goes. Last story for you guys, actually one last quick one. Ange POSTECOGLOU is going to get a £2 million bonus if he wins the Europa League, according to reports from Football London. £2 million bonus. Now you can see why it means as much as he does. When the man I think he only earns, I say only, but I think he earns, is it £4 million a year? So he's going to get a 50% bonus if he lifts the Europa League. I don't know. A prouder man might decide to give half of that back for the absolute shockingly bad performance in the league. But it is what it is. People have got to earn a living, I guess. Here's the last story for you guys. It's actually an interesting one. A player that I hadn't really, I'd heard of about a year and a half ago. as like an up-and-coming one of these. I saw it on one of these, like the top 50 young players that are emerging for the next generation. His name is Victor Froholt. He's a Danish guy, 19 years old, plays for Copenhagen. He's 6'2", and for Copenhagen this season, he's played 8 games, scored 2 goals and an assist. And I've taken a look at him, right? He's a defensive midfielder by trait, but also has, or maybe like he's one of those kind of like, is he a 6, is he an 8? I'm not sure. But he also has played as a right wing forward and a left wing forward. So he's either incredibly good defensively and then only good at the driving with the ball thing, but from the width, or he's just one of those types of players like a Patrick Dorgu who played half of his life as a left back and the other half of his life as a right wing forward. I don't know, it's a little bit odd, but when I looked into him, because the noise was out today that Tottenham are very much interested in signing him as well. But apparently, the story says that we're not going to do it because there's no room in the squad for him because we already have, you know, Bissouma and Bentancur and Bergvall and Sarr and yada, yada, yada. But obviously, I believe that there's going to be some outgoings in that midfield department this summer. And we are looking for 6s and 8s. Certainly, we've already spoken about PALHINHA, for example. I also think, for what it's worth, keep your eye out for links to Samuel Ricci, the Torino player, Ricky Ricci. I'm not sure if the C is a she or a C. But he is 21, DM, cracking player. He is managed by CAA base, and obviously with the Paratici links as well, you can just sort of see there that there is for sure a connection that I think will be harnessed and harvested by the aggregators, by the journalists, and we'll start to talk about Samuel Ricci as a potential Tottenham target. You heard it here first. I actually really do like the player. There isn't any links yet, but I don't guarantee, I'm pretty sure you'll see them throughout the summer. Samuel Ricci to Tottenham will be something, and if it does happen, I'd love to see it. He's a really, really good player. But Tottenham do need a 6 or an 8, and for what it's worth, guys, Victor Froholt is a player that I've looked at, and he actually does look like a really interesting player. Again, I'm not too familiar with the quality of the Danish league, so I don't really know. We weren't really that sure about Bergvall, right? And he looked, you know, very much at ease in the Swedish league, and we're like, yeah, but it's the Swedish league. Well, he's come here and he's absolutely stepped up. So I don't even know if the Danish league and the Swedish league, who's the more competitive of the two, to be entirely honest. I don't get access to that football. So let me know if you know. Let me know if you've heard of this player. But from what I've seen of him, he looks really interesting. He's really physical off the ball. Gets in, doesn't slide in. He can go and win the ball back. He's happy to just sit there and plop the ball left and right. Seems to get it there with consummate ease. I've seen a variety of him doing it on artificial pitch and on grass, which is always interesting. And I'll tell you what, he can run at the ball, with the ball, into the pocket, seemingly at ease, and he just has this kind of like this ability to shift, almost like he's a boxer that's kind of doing that bob and weave thing, and he just sort of transfers his weight and then just throws the defensive players off their axis and then just creates more space for himself. He loves a shot from deep as well, which is something that we don't really have enough of, and probably one of the only people that do it in our team is Pape Sarr, and he's more likely to hit me in row 49 at Tottenham than he is the back of the net. But Victor Froholt, the story was that Tottenham are very interested but are now not going to be because we don't have space, and that doesn't really make sense because I think we will be trying to make space in that regard. Now, do we want to go and get another 19-year-old? Depends on the asking price. I agree with the way that Sava sort of presents that if you want to go after these guys, they're fine for punts, almost like a spray and play. If you're betting on the golf, you know, you might have £100 of your betting ticket and you put £80 of that on the 2 or 3 golfers that you think have got a really good chance of winning, and the last £20 you put a couple of pounds here and there on some rank outsiders just in case they have a kind of an abnormal day. So Victor Froholt might be put into that bucket, but he looks like a really handy player. I don't know too much about him, but from what I've seen on the Y-Scout, I do actually quite like him. So I'd be interested to see if he's someone we can go after, and we seem to have a little bit of success now going into that part of the world and finding some talent, right? The Swedish connection, we've got a few Swedes, we might be getting some more. This now Danish guy, we've obviously got links with Rooney Bargy as well. That guy's on a free transfer at the end of the season, or the end of December, but he's currently injured again, so I don't think that will happen anytime soon. But there's a story for you guys. Victor Froholt, that's all of it. So I told you it was a monster. Apologies for the long one, but that's your update today. You'll see me tonight at 6 o'clock for a live watch along. Please smash the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, and get into the comments and let me know about all of them. See you in the next one. Bye.